The Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt has warned Iran of serious consequences after the Iranian Revolutionary Guard seized a British-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf yesterday evening. The government's advised UK ships to stay out of the area of the Strait of Hormuz for what it calls an interim period after a meeting last night of the Emergency Committee of the British government, COBRA. State media in Tehran says the tanker, the Stena Impero, had violated international maritime rules, but the ship's owner, Swedish company Stena Impero, says the tanker was in full compliance with all navigation and international regulations. Well, the Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt said the seizure was unacceptable and Britain's response would be considered but robust. Here's our correspondent Simon Jones.
Seized in a major escalation of tensions, the Stena Impero, a British-flagged tanker and its 23 crew members from India, Russia, Latvia and the Philippines, now in the hands of Iran, after it was surrounded by 4 boats and a helicopter.
This is completely unacceptable. Freedom of navigation must be maintained. We will respond in a way that is considered but robust, and we are absolutely clear that if this situation is not resolved quickly, there will be serious consequences.
The tanker was tracked leaving the United Arab Emirates, heading north, staying well inside the international waters of the Gulf. But just after 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the 30,000-ton vessel makes an abrupt change of course, its last known movement inside Iranian waters. An announcement on Iranian TV claimed the tanker had failed to respect international maritime rules. Its British operator says that's not true. London is now urging UK ships to stay out of the area for the time being.
There is no alternative route in and out of the Gulf, so if this is to endure, then clearly it's going to impact on our trade routes, trade patterns, and ultimately the price of those goods.
The US President is rallying to Britain's support.
We have a lot of ships there that are warships, and we'll talk to the UK, and we have no written agreement, but we have an agreement. They've been a very great ally of ours.
A second British-owned tanker, the Mesdar, was boarded by armed guards, but has now been allowed to continue on its journey. Iran's actions are believed to be in response to this, the Royal Marines helping to seize an Iranian supertanker off the coast of Gibraltar earlier this month. Britain believed it was smuggling oil to Syria in violation of EU sanctions. Tehran accused London of piracy. A meeting of the government's Emergency Committee, COBRA, went on late into the night. The big question now, who will make the next move? Simon Jones, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Catherine DeCosta is outside the Foreign Office for us now. Catherine, since the Foreign Secretary spoke to cameras late last night after that meeting, he's put out another statement. As kind of tonally, at least, it seems to be slightly tougher in its message.
Yeah, and clearly relations are deteriorating between Iran, the US and the UK. In a statement put out this morning by the Foreign Office, it says ministers met in COBRA to discuss the incidents in the Strait of Hormuz. We remain deeply concerned about Iran's unacceptable actions, which represent a clear challenge to international freedom of navigation. We've advised UK shipping to stay out of the area for an interim period. As the Foreign Secretary has said, our response will be considered and robust, and there'll be serious consequences if the situation is not resolved. We remain in close contact with our international partners, and there will be further meetings over the weekend. Well, now this morning, Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, has tweeted. He said yesterday's actions in the Gulf shows worrying signs Iran may be choosing a dangerous path of illegal and destabilising behaviour. He added, our reaction will be considered but robust. We've been trying to find a way to resolve Grace 1 issue, but we will ensure the safety of our shipping. Now, Iran's take on this incident is that the tanker collided with an Iranian fishing ship and failed to respond to calls from that smaller boat. It's been taken to an Iranian port. All 23 crew members are on board and will remain so until an investigation is carried out. But the vessel's owner has said it was complying with regulations and was in international waters at the time.
What about then the international reaction? Because presumably Britain's relations with Iran are partly determined by the position the European Union takes.
Yes, well, you will be clear that tensions have flared earlier this month, and that was caused by the Royal Marine seizing an Iranian tanker. That Iran responded, accusing Britain of piracy and threatened to retaliate. A week later, Iran tried to impound a British tanker. That was stopped by the Royal Navy. Iran's also hurting from tough US sanctions. It may feel it's got nothing to lose. The US is trying to bring about an international coalition to condemn this situation, and so far both France and Germany have called on Iran to release the British tanker immediately.
Catherine de Costa at the Foreign Office, thanks very much.